Happy Mushoku Mondays, everybody. Welcome back to yet another trek of the Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation novel series. We're on Volume 22, Chapter 6, and things are getting crazy. And I'm super bummed. I'm super bummed. I was so excited to go meet the parents again. I was like, we're going to go to Magurdian Village. We're going to pit stop by there. But no, we went straight to Atoff. Just went straight there. And I'm like, missed opportunity. What the hell? Refugio, we just don't care about developing characters anymore? Do we just not care about expanding the character? Let's just go straight to the points. We're just going to go straight to combat, straight to big leaders, and we're just going to forget about the characters and their families. I'm sorry, I'm in rant mode. I've, for a while now, have been feeling like Refugian's kind of gotten away from like some in-depth character stuff. And yes, there's still stuff in here. There's still stuff sprinkled through here and here, but I don't know. I just feel like it's losing a lot of its heart lately because it's so focused on, going to these leaders, getting the big wigs. But again, I'm getting into a rant that's been kind of brewing in my head for a while now lately. I still love the series. I still love that there's still some character moments here and there. It still has these impactful moments, but sometimes I'm like, you're missing opportunities here. You're missing opportunities here. I don't know. We could still do a pit stop afterwards. Maybe something happens here and we can go drop by there. I've read the next 3 chapters and it was still a lot of fun. And I'm pretty sure we'll get through these 3 chapters. Mostly combat related stuff goes pretty quickly. There is a couple points in here where there's like a special ability or something like that it gets into that does technically, get into some conversation and whatnot. But we'll see as we get there as usual. But greatly appreciate you guys for dropping by for the premiere. Hey, chat. Hope you guys are doing well. Thank you so much for your guys' support, your kind words, all the things that you guys do for me. It means so much to me. It's what you guys do that makes Mushoku Monday what it is. And I greatly, greatly appreciate everybody that support channel monetarily through Patreon, tips, links, super thanks, all that stuff. It means a great deal to me. Noah with a super last week. Inferno Torch with 2 supers. Thank you so much, Inferno Torch. And Kusha with a super. Thank you, thank you, thank you. With that said, let's just get right into it. Let's dive right into this sucker. Let's get to Atoff. Let's get over to Atoff. Chapter 6, Infiltrating Fort Necros. We find Rudius and party in the Gaslow territory, one of the most hostile regions of the Demon Continent. That was kind of another reason why I'm not sure we'll have an actual pit stop, because I don't know exactly where the Gaslow territory is. I kind of have an idea where the Magurdian village is based on things like, I don't know, I should check the game. Maybe the game shows it, because I know the game kind of shows exactly where locations are at, which is kind of nice. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure they probably talked to Refugian about the map. But I wonder if Gaslow territory might be in the game, and that'll give me an idea of how far away from the Magurdian village it is. I'm so obsessed with them going to the Magurdian village. I wanted that. I wanted Papa Roxy to be like, no, you can't be my son. Don't call me Papa. Anyways, stop it, Andrew. The monsters spawning on the Demon Continent were far more powerful than the other continents, while more numerous too. There was still an ecological balance, however. Just as there were a large number of acid wolves and pack coyotes in the Bigeo region, so did this region have its native flora and fauna. There was a basilisk with petrifying breath, black drake soaring unchecked through the skies with its powerful jaws and poisonous talons, giant lake water bugs that created pools of its own mucus to draw in prey. Then there was the white fang cobra, highly agile and covered in hard scales resistant to magic. Beasts aside, some places belched poison gas and others gaped into deep ravines. Yeah, it doesn't sound like a very happy place. But it does sound like a place that Atoff would be at. Given that all the monsters were brutally vicious, the whole place was dotted with danger zones. As such, the Gaslow territory had a reputation as a miserable pit, with lousy demons, hardly any adventurers, next to no towns, and any that existed were highly fortified. Still, some allegedly saw this place as aspirational. It was the home to the Demon Continent's greatest fort, built by the immortal Necros Lacrosse, one of the 5 great demon kings. The master of the fort was a demon king, Atofratov, Gaslow territory's immortal demon king. 400 years ago, during the war, she fought on Laplace's side, raining fury down on the battlefield and crossing swords countless times with Pegasus. Yeah, pretty much most of the stuff we already kind of know. It kind of just puts it all together. The one interesting thing that I obviously note here is the fact that, yes, Atoff went home. Last time we met her, she was over in Kishidika's castle. So apparently at some point she's kind of like, let's go back home. Let's go back home. We still got to wait for some more heroes to show up, apparently. There was a legend that was especially heeded by warriors. Journey forth, you who seek power. The Demon Continent is your destination. Travel its lands. Ascend to Fort Necros. Show your might before the Demon King and lust for yet greater might. Only then may all-conquering power be yours. Apparently not everybody heeds it, because you would think that somebody like the sword guy would come down there, Galfalion, and be like, hell yeah, Those who were in search for the fort were knight-errants. They followed the legend here seeking power. No one who made it ever returned. So, in the end, no one knew if the legend was true, or a mere fairy tale. Well, Rhodius knew. Around half of those knights died on the journey. The majority of those that survived were assimilated into Eftof's personal guard. Someone probably made it home now and then, but it takes more than one or two people knowing the truth to kill a good yarn like that. Rhodius was pretty sure that Atof's retainer, Moore, was the one spreading the rumors. Yeah, I can see both ways based on what we get into in a couple chapters. It was a pretty nasty trap, preying on pure hard warriors. If anybody's power, I mean, yes, it's mean for those that are coming there that are too weak and they die on the way there. But I mean, if you're seeking power, you're going to go through dangers. That's you have to make that decision yourself. But the trick is the fact that if you get there and you end up being pretty much stuck there, that's the trick. That's the trick. Which gets me to like totally I'm getting into it early. Stop, Andrew. We'll get into it in a minute. Rhodius' party currently consisted of himself, Edis, and Roxy. He brought along a bottle of wine as an offering. Orst had told him that Etof liked to drink. There was probably still going to be a fight, even if he plied with her with alcohol. Yeah, seen that coming, yes. No, there's a side of me that forgot how dumb she is. There's a side of me that forgot how dumb she is. Fort Necros was a 3-hour journey from the teleportation circle ruins. It wasn't such a long way, but the ruins with the circle was deep in the mountains. Some black drakes were using it as a nest. Black dragons came at them, but they quickly sliced them up. After barbecuing them, they turned the eggs they found into omelets to give them strength for the journey. After several encounters, it took them a day to reach the bottom of the mountain. This was the closest that Rhodius had seen a teleportation circle to a human settlement, let alone human settlement in the area so thoroughly steeped in magic. Yeah, that's technically true. I mean, I would assume like the more closest to this would probably be something like the Begaric continent. I'm pretty sure there's probably several places in the Demon continent as well, but maybe the northern territories of the central continent. But yeah, how close to like thick mana, like mana that is corrupting the monsters and the animals in the area into monsters. That was no sweat. Edis was cheerful though. Of course. Cutting through every monster that came at them. It was as if she was selling them on the benefits of training daily. She had a few opportunities beside her constant drills to slake her battle lust. Rumors that she snuck out to hunt monsters outside of town aside. It's like this idea of her getting ratted out, the idea that she's like sneaking out to go kill monsters. Like, yeah, Edis disappeared again today. I think she's killing monsters again. This is a harsh place. I shudder to think what would happen if I came here alone. Roxy looked worn out. She had done her best to plot out a route where they would go relatively unnoticed by monsters. It was all down to her that the bottle of wine had come through unscathed. That's all you got, Roxy? You're rusty. Edis laughed. I can't deny that. My reflexes were a bit sharper back when I was adventuring, but now I sit around at my desk all day. Better watch out, or your students won't take you seriously. You'll have to start training me then. You're on. They become such best friends. And even like later on, it's like these two, the relationship points keep going up. While they talked, Rhodius looked down at the fort below them. The whole thing was black, probably built with the same materials as Kishidika's castle. It wasn't vast, just a castle and town protected by thick walls, not uncommon for this world. The walls dividing it into 5 blocks, each adjoining the others to form a terrace. The lower 3 was an ordinary castle town. Upper 2 were full buildings with no connection to daily life, and a great amphitheater, a military facility, most likely. Right at the top was a black castle-like building that towered imposingly over the rest. That would be the keep. Approaching the fortress from behind, it seemed pretty defenseless. That made sense, given it was protected on this side by mountains. Oh, I see people. Rhodius seen 5 black armored individuals that started clamoring about something. Was it bad manners to arrive from the side? There isn't really etiquette around that. I expect they just don't get a lot of travelers coming down from the mountains. Well, yeah, I mean, they basically would have to go around purposely to go around the back side. That would be a little weird. I mean, Atof might know about the teleportation. Then maybe they get some people like, Orsted coming by there. Edis was already racing ahead, as Rhodius wondered if they'd get shot at from above. But the 5 figures on the wall weren't moving. After some time, they arrived at the base of the wall. There was a big door, probably some sort of back entrance. It was black painted in a black wall, so it wasn't noticeable from far away. Well met, heroes. You have done well to reach Fort Necros. Rhodius hadn't heard the demon tongue in some while, but apparently he had no trouble recalling it. Still, he was puzzled about being called heroes. You just talked about the whole legend about coming there and getting power. Why would you not remember this? You must be stout of heart to have traversed the demon mountains. Do you seek the honor of champions or the power of the Demon King? Whichever, it makes no difference. If you wish to enter, here, first you must defeat us, Lady Atof's personal guard. Very well, we'll go around to the front gate. It seemed their tradition, and Rhodius had a favorite ask, so he wanted to do things right. They're like, what do you wish? Do you seek power? Oh, sorry, we'll go to the front door, I guess. You're not doing things right, Rudius. There seems to be a miscommunication happening here. Yes, Etof's goofiness extends to her guard. Big shock, right? Still, the men looked perplexed, not replying to his words. One appeared to be asking the other what to do. Did he say something wrong? Oh, and I'd really appreciate it if you'd tell Captain Moore that Rudius Greyrat has brought Queen Etof an offering. He was kind of wondering if he should have led with that. As he turned to leave, a voice rang out. Halt! You are guest of Queen Etof? That's right. I had the honor of her acquaintance, very briefly. So I came to pay my regards. Very well, wait one moment. Rudius was relieved that they didn't have to trek around the fort. Edis grumbled, but it was nice not having to fight their way through the Ultimate Four. Edis is like, yes, let's do it. Dog damn it. The audience chamber at Fort Necross was an open-air affair with no ceiling. A long staircase, wedged between thick pillars, engraved with images of devils, led up to a platform. It was ringed by candles burning with purple flame. In the front of each candle was stationed a soldier in black armor. The platform, no walls or handrails. From the edge, you'd probably get a good view of the town below. At the very back sat a menacingly ornamented throne. It was more like a place you'd summon an ancient archdevil or fight the final boss. Yeah, like how many JRPGs back in the day, like the final boss or at least some big pinnacle point of the story has you go into this one room and it just has a staircase going up this big platform and this dude that's like literally 5 times the size of your sprite of your characters is up on that throne going, ho, 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 ho. Well met, heroes. I forgot her voice. I think it was like a squeaky voice. Well met, heroes. You've done it well to make it here. Sitting on the throne was a woman about Edis's height who wore black armor. She stood up, looking genuinely excited, then spread her robe with a flourish. She cut a truly majestic and wondrous figure, if you just focused on how she looked. I am the immortal demon king Etof Ratov Rebek. It had taken about 2 hours to get from the back gate to Moore, then to this arena. Etof must have gone out of her way to get everything ready so fast, unless she waited for sunset, just because she knew it would make a good scene. Regardless, it was a 5-star effort. It's got to have the lighting and everything perfect coming up from behind her, cool shadowing and everything. You should be proud to stand here, mortals. Brave champions, you have overcome many trials. We ask you this. Do you seek the honor of champions, the renown of heroes, or perhaps the power of the Demon King? It is like all like theatrics. It's all theatrics. All theatric again. I seem to remember it was just like this in the previous time. Rudius knew this was a loaded bull. Saying honor or hero, you got the crap beat out of you, then made to serve her. If you said you wanted power, you got the crap beaten out of you, then made her serve her. Pretty much the same thing, no matter what you choose. Edda snickered. She was smirking? Right, she was into that sort of thing. This is over there getting all into it. One of the... If you swap places between the two of them, it would still make sense. I could totally see Edis just doing this just to roleplay into something for Rudius. She's totally gonna do that. In the future, Edis is gonna roleplay as Etof in the bed or something. One of the guards next to Etof began whispering in her ear. Something about today's itinerary, perhaps. Rudius made it clear that he was there to apologize. But now they were talking about heroes and whatever. Chances were high that there was a misunderstanding that occurred. No, the moment that they came in here, I couldn't forget about the fact that Moore did what he did. When they came here last time and faced off against Etof, Moore was puppeteer and stuff. Like, he was acting like he was trying to be with them. I felt like it was genuine that the other guards were not liking the whole situation. Because they went this whole thing where all the guards were kind of trying to help them out because they didn't want to have happen to them what happened to them. And there was also this kind of idea of like, please go say hi to my family or something like that. Go tell my family I'm okay or whatever like that. Like, they want to go home. And so there was like that whole thing there. Like, they didn't want Rudius to end up like them, but they wanted Rudius to help them, but, you know, go talk to their family or whatever. And I almost thought Moore was in on that whole thing of trying to help. But no, he was, in the end, he was working for Etof. And so this whole entire time, I'm like, I almost feel like Rudius has forgotten that. Like, you do know that Moore double-crossed you several times, right? Like, he kept saying, go do this or this, and it never worked out for them. Now, it could be that, I don't think that Etof was outthinking Moore. I think that Moore was legit trying to double-cross Rudius. So it's like, why is he just so trusting of Moore again? Like I can tell from over here when it's so bright. Etof punch. Moore went flying. Poor Moore. Show me your faces. Etof strode up to Rudius, fists still clenched tightly. The moment her eyes met Rudius's, her mouth twisted into an evil smile. Oh, it's you. Good to see you after all this time. After that,
After you and Petagus, that trap you set for me. And you come to me? You stroll on in here.
A vicious smile was spreading across her face. But Rudius seen this coming. That's why he brought an apology gift. Yeah, about that, I'd like to, offer you an apology.
Very good. You've grown into a man since I last saw you. I like the face on you. That's the face of a man who isn't afraid. All the brave souls who challenged me wore such a face.
She wasn't listening at all. She just pressed her face close to his, eyes wide with excitement. She then bared her teeth in a grin. Rudius could practically see the lens flare on the fangs.
That's a face of a man who isn't afraid to die.
Suddenly, Rudius realized his legs were shaking. He anticipated this all, but still was shaking all over.
Huh?
Just then, something red filled Rudius' vision. Red hair. Edis is like, I win. I win.
Stand down.
Edis had inserted herself between him and Etoff.
Who are you?
I'm Edis Greyrat. Etoff took a step back.
Oh, that fearlessness, that burning rage, that sword of yours. And even now you're thinking about swinging it at me.
As she appraised Edis with a piercing gaze, Edis glared back with a feral gleam in her eyes. Edis is like, I want to do this. Let's do this. She's super hyped to fight.
Are you a champion? That's right, that woman beside you. She's sure appraising her surroundings. Is she a magician?
Roxy hesitantly spoke up, tipping the brim of her hat. I am. My name's Roxy Greyrat. It's an honor to make your acquaintance.
You look fearless as well. Are you gonna fight me?
If you're all set on killing my apprentice, Great Demon King, I'll do what little I can to stop you. Girl has no confidence. Roxy, you got no confidence. I'll do what little I can. Reese realized that he must look really scared. Both Edis and the level-headed Roxy was gearing up to protect him. He really had to pull himself together. Stopping his shaking, he met Etoff's eyes with determination as she glanced back at him.
So then, what about you?
What about me? Reese thought. He wasn't sure how he was meant to answer that. Calming himself, Edis was a champion. Roxy was a magician. Sylvie would be like a magic knight or a thief. He couldn't be a cleric because that was more Cliff. So maybe I'm a magician?
Moron! As if you would have two magicians.
It's like he's got to have a full party. Like, it restricts you on what your party feel is. It hurt to be called a moron by a moron. But by that logic, she meant that one per class. If Edis was protecting him as he stood trembling, that meant I'm the princess? You had to say it. Reese is only in the bad situation that he is because of his own damn mouth. Again, this is a trend. Every fire he makes himself. He's the fireman always putting out his own fires. It happened with Millis, it happened with the King Dragon Realm, and now it's happening here. I think this is a trend we're going into.
Princess, you said? Eh?
He confused Lady Etoff. There was doubt in that laugh. She had been staring at him like a carnivore eyeing up its prey. But now she glanced at him, looking a little lost. Roxy rolled her eyes. Don't be silly. Yeah, you know what you are. A sage, or whatever. Again, starts his own fires. Rudius wasn't much of a sage since he became Rudius the Celibate. Even Ariel suggested that he become a jester. Whatever, I don't care. I'm Rudius Greyrat.
That's funny. All three of you are Greyrats, I see. Associates who just happen to have the same name, banding together. That's hilarious.
Lady Etoff, before we fight, will you at least hear me out?
Why?
Because I came here to talk to you.
I hate talking. Nothing you humans say makes any sense.
I think today will be quite straightforward. Looking at Roxy, she lowered her pack, then produced a wooden box. Reese took it before raising it up to Etoff in tribute. First of all, I offer you this, a gift expressing my apologies for the past.
What is it?
Wine from the Osira Kingdom.
Booze?
Etoff's attitude totally changed. It was as Orsted said. According to him, one of the champions who'd come to fight her challenged her with wine tasting battle before he tried to beat her after getting her drunk. The final result was a loss for Etoff, at wine tasting that is. She won the actual battle. The Notos Greyrats gifted this wine to the Osira Kingdom at the coronation. It is both rare and very expensive.
Does it taste good?
Very. He hadn't actually sampled it, so he had no idea if it was true or not. Ariel said that it was made 100 years ago. It was supposedly so good that its vineyards became exclusive suppliers to the royalty. Sadly, at this point, the stores of it were totally exhausted. The vaults of the Notos Greyrat still had some. They had given 10 bottles from the vault to Ariel at her coronation. Palmon attempting to suck up. Yeah, if they're as good as they're claiming it, and it going straight to the royalty, and the idea that, obviously, they're storing the wine, letting it age, and yes, it seems like with all the stuff that's happening with the royal family and everything that's been happening in Asra, they've used it all up. They've been partying and having too much fun for so long that they've used up all those stores of all the aged wine. And here comes here comes Paimon, still trying to butter up Ariel, like, please let me back in the door. Hey, I like you. I'm sorry about this whole thing that happened. Here's this extremely, extremely rare wine. Nowadays, one bottle is worth about 300 Osran gold coins, or about 2 Linias. I totally missed that joke the first time I read it. I totally missed that because I don't think it's capitalized. So I was like, what is a Linia? And I just kind of went past it. Again, when I'm doing my pre stuff for the recording, I'm not like super into like what exactly is being said or if there's any sort of details in there. So I kind of just completely glossed over this. It's worth 2 Linias. Oh my gosh, that's so stupid. That is so stupid. God, what a good joke. Because a Linia is worth 150 Austrian gold coins. Rias hadn't paid for it. He asked Ariel for a good alcohol, and she had given it to him. He was shocked later to find out how much it was worth. With this and what happened around the King Dragon realm, it really felt like Ariel was fishing for a favor lately. It made Rias a bit nervous. One day soon, she might call it in. I don't know. Again, this is all that idea that yes, she's obviously trying to repay them, actually. Not really so much wanting a favor, but I think it's more of an idea of her currying favor so they keep protecting her. I'm useful, right? Please, if something happens, please step in. Something might happen, please step in.
It's good, huh?
Yes, so I hope you'll forgive me for the past.
I will. I'm far more generous than Pedagogus ever will be, I won't hold a grudge over something stupid like that.
Yeah, I think this is a multifaceted thing. And it's so funny because I think at some point there was a statement they made that made Pedagogus kind of angry at Rudius for something involving Atof, or at least comparing. So it's kind of funny to see the other side. But yeah, one, I think she's too stupid to hold a grudge. Well, actually, there is a side of it that being too stupid, you can't be level-headed about a situation. But I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that she is an immortal demon king. They live for so long that they kind of see things like grudges and whatnot a little differently. That said, I'm more generous than Pedagogus will ever be. I won't hold a grudge over something stupid like that. Now, she's saying something stupid like that, but girl, you've been holding a grudge with Pedagogus for a long time. So I don't know. It's like a mixed thing there. Like I can see a lot of it being their lifespan and how they just view things differently. It doesn't really matter who gives a crap. They'll die here soon. Haha, they're below me. Who cares? But still, it ends up turning into a thing where she's trying to flex on Pedagogus right here. Like, I wouldn't do that. I'm not like Pedagogus. Well, let's do it grudge. Sure. Thank you very much.
But I won't forgive Pedagogus. One day, I'm gonna kill him. Was that it?
No, there's one more thing. I'm always afraid that my Etoff voice is gonna peak the audio because it's such a spiky. I'm trying to do this thing, hold back for it. It's hard to get her energy in there without messing with the mic. Reese reached into Roxy's pack and took out another bottle. This one was from Orsted, had some writings engraved on it, and the liquid was cloudy. Orsted had said that Etoff would probably appreciate it.
You gotta be kidding.
The knights began muttering at her outburst. Amidst the uncertainty, Moore sidled over to them.
Look, well?
Moore scrutinized the bottle, then noticed a marble-like object submerged in the liquid.
It's exactly the same as the last one.
Right? Oh, you! Where'd you get this?
Well, my master, the dragon god Orsted, said to bring it if I wanted to befriend Lady Etoff.
The dragon god? That settles it then. This is the very drink that Urpin sent Carl and I when we got married. The fabled secret spirits of the dragon clan. Its name? Now Ale, the dragon god's jewel. That day was the one time I got to drink this. Never once before or after. I've been hunting for this ever since, but now I found it at last.
Ruiz practically heard a da-da-da-dun sound effect as she raised the bottle. She looked thrilled. Ruiz was just happy that the gift went down so well. A crushing victory for Orsted. Yeah, she's looking super freaking happy in that picture. And it's got more in the picture. He's got blood all over his face because he's got punched. But yeah, it's dorky. Super dorky. She's got the liquor. There's a significance there, obviously. The fact that on her wedding day, the one she married, the one that she loved, Apparently, Udapin sent this whole thing to her. So this is like massive amount of nostalgia for her. This is one thing I drank. Yes, it could be the fact that it was just really, really good. But it could be the fact that it was like both good and the fact that it's, significant to her for that day. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like, yeah, that technically was a long time ago. Oh, here's another one of the bottles, but it's kind of really old because it's clouded. But interesting that it has a gem in it. That's the interesting thing. He noticed a marble-like object submerged in the liquid. And then it mentions here is the Dragon God's Jewel. That's the name of it, is the Nile Ale, the Dragon God's Jewel. So the assumption here is that there is a jewel in it that is significant somehow. Like this jewel does something. Or, I mean, when I initially heard this, I was thinking like the Japanese like soda pops or whatever, where they have the little marble that you pop down in there. But no, it's sealed and everything, so I would assume not. Could be related somehow. I'm curious if the jewel is something special. Is there something within the gem or something like that? Maybe it's mana infused or something like that. That'd be curious.
That's it. I'll beat you and then the ale will be mine.
She took everything she wanted by force. A demon king to the end. I'm giving it to you.
You what?
It's a small symbol of friendship offered by the dragon god Orsted to the immortal demon king Etoff. When talking to Etoff, it was important to be loud and forceful in order for it not to be steamrolled. She's literally taking it wrong. And he's like, I'm giving it to you. It's for you. I have to be very forceful about this. Otherwise, she's not going to get it in her head. You have Roxy and Edis over there, and they're holding up signs that are saying, congratulations, this is for you. Please just take it. It's not a fight. It's literally like she takes it as this is like a bet, and he's putting down like what he wants to put on the table to bet.
Eh? What are you, chicken? Fight me.
We can fight if you want, but I'm giving you the ale.
I don't get it.
This is not how it works.
It's too complicated. What's going on?
More. What's he talking about?
Gift? What? What's the catch?
More than finally spoke up.
It's not a banquet. It's not a party. And it's not a thank you or an apology. Why would you want to give this to her?
More to the rescue. Reese realized he needed to explain it a bit. The thing is, I have to fight this guy called Geese in the near future. He's gathering powerful warriors under him to bring me down. I was hoping to ask Lady Etoff for assistance in that battle. See, again, you're failing. Like, already right here, Rudius, you have failed to explain this properly to somebody like Etoff. Simple. Hey, Etoff, there's some really powerful warriors gathering for a fight here soon, and I wanted to offer to you a chance to be a part of that. Simple. Simple. Reese wasn't getting anywhere near the subject of the war with Laplace. Yeah, I would not. Do not get into any more than this. Orsa said that even if he asked her to work with him to fight Laplace, she'd never agree, and it would likely end in battle. She wasn't duty-bound to Laplace. It was simply too difficult for her to understand. In all the features Orsted knew, Etoff fought for Laplace without fail, so he'd arrive at the conclusion that it was easier not to bother persuading her otherwise. Reese would just talk to Moore later about the details. Yeah, have Moore figure out how to explain it to her. But again, if you trust Moore,
You want Lady Etoff to fight together with you?
That's right. Moore's easy to understand translation seemed easier for Etoff to follow. You just want Etoff to follow. Just say that, Rudius. But again, I would play into her battle hungriness. We're going to go fight some really powerful people. Okay? No, now I'm kind of more thinking, hey, I have a princess that would be perfect for you to kidnap. Her name is Geese. She's kind of got a monkey face, a little bit more muscular, but she's a perfect princess. The heroes will come running.
Aha! I get it. I'm no dummy. I like it. Let's do it.
Never mind. The way that she agreed. I forgot about this. So mean. The way that she agreed was like when Edis nodded, having no clue what was going on. Uh-huh. I got it. I could see Edis' face immediately. At least this response meant that Geese stood zero chance of smooth-talking her into anything. I think he would be simple about it, and he would trick her. I mean, that's like Laplace. Why does she join Laplace? I think that's just simply an idea of, did it before, do it again. Like, at some point, I'd join him, probably for somebody else. I did it before, I'll do it again. It's just, it kind of is, again, and it might be that he's just, like, promising her battle. Come with me. We're going to fight some powerful people.
All right, let's go.
Simple.
Is that all you have to say?
Yes. And thus Rudius won Etof's allegiance. The death god and the immortal demon king was in his pocket. By getting two people... Already when I'm reading this, I'm like, no, you don't, Rudius. What are you talking about? By getting two people who had beaten him before on his side, he felt like he gained a major advantage. Plus, he avoided getting in a fight. That was a huge relief. Flag. Flag, flag, flag.
Now, we duel. You said before we fight before. We're done talking. It's time to duel.
She just wants to fight. Did he say that? Again, setting your own fires. Rudius was confused. He gave her wine. She forgave him. Then joined his side. There was no reason to fight. Orsted didn't say anything about this. Wait, he's like checking his notes. Wait, Orsted, you didn't say this. I bet if Orsted knew that, Orsted probably wouldn't even note that. He's like, yeah, he's going to probably fight you, but it's a given.
I am the immortal demon king Etof Retof Rebek. Come at me, all three of you heroes.
Rudius couldn't understand why. As he hesitated, there was a question mark hovering over Roxy's head. She's like, wait, what? Wait, what? Wait, what? Etof's personal guard didn't seem surprised, so this is probably Etof's usual routine. There was a general sense of not again amongst the audience. More seemed similarly resigned. Only one person stepped forward, as though they had been waiting for this. You'll fight me. Edis strode right up to Etof until their noses were practically touching. Yes! All the Etof fans are going, yes! As though she could care less about distance. They look like they might kiss, staring each other down.
You're not worth Rudius' time,
Edis hissed.
You talk big, kid.
There was murder in Etof's eyes. It seemed like Edis's goading was hitting its mark.
In 100 years, you're the only one who's ever talked to me like that.
I laughed so loud when I read this, and I'm laughing again. That would have probably sounded really bad if she hadn't been holding bottles in each hand. So I get the image here of the two bottles in the hand.
In 100 years, you're the only one who's ever talked to me like that.
She'd smash them for sure if she launched in battle. Thankfully, Moore appeared at her side to take them away.
You'll do well as one of my guards. I'll smash you to a pulp, then add you to the ranks. When you lose, you'll hear Rudius out. Fine.
She's already heard him out. There's just no communication happening, and I don't think it's going to change after we fight. Fight, win, make nice. Was she that simple? Rudius messed up on going the offering route. It was too complicated for Etof. Exactly. And this is kind of a, yes, sort of shade being thrown at Edis here, but that's, again, what I was expecting. What I was talking about when I first mentioned the idea of going to Etof. And yes, when they brought in the idea that Edis and Roxy were going to go, that was my immediate thought. Edis is going to win her over. Why? Because they're both battle hungry. Just let them duel, let them fight, and they'll figure it out. And that's going to be the easiest way because, again, Etof's very single-minded. She has one path. She doesn't understand these things. Again, like I mentioned before, she doesn't understand talking. You humans want to talk all the time, but I never understand what you're talking about. It's just very simple-minded. You're going into these long explanations about all this crap out here, and you're going down these lines of train of thought that's trying to explain something. I don't care. Fight? Let's go. Drink? Let's do it. I don't care about all this other stuff. Geese? Gathering an army? I don't care. You want to fight? Edis is like, let's go. I'll win. So yes, Edis is the perfect person to be able to talk this person because Edis likes it simple too. He knew from the start a fight was practically inevitable. They'd win, then make Etof an ally.
Lady Etof, please wait.
Moore ran over to Etof and whispered in her ear. I don't trust this dude. I don't trust this dude. I don't trust this dude. It was going to be fine. Edis versus Etof. Let's just do it. And now it's going to turn this long, complicated thing. I don't know. It might turn their favor at the end. I haven't read it to the end, so. Moore ran over to Etof and whispered in her ear. Maybe he was trying to convince her not to fight. A man with a little sense. I don't know why he trusts Moore so much. It's so weird why Rudius now trusts Moore so much. Yes, I do acknowledge Moore is a very smart person. He's very level-headed. But he's not doing anything for Rudius. This guy is not going to do favors for Rudius. He has no reason to help Rudius. There's no reason why he would help Rudius over Etov. And it's obvious that he's still serving Etov because even after she got wrecked by Petagoose, he stayed with her. He could have left after that whole incident.
Say what?
Etov didn't look pleased by what he was saying. She was far too battle-starved and likely going to punch him.
Hey, you!
She beckoned to Rudius. Was he going to get punched? If he got punched like more, he was a goner. Walking up to her, trembling, she stared intently at him.
You're the princess.
Huh? Oh, I guess. I think so.
Here I thought you were a man.
I am a man.
Say what? You're a princess even though you're a man?
He was going to claim gender fluidity, but he kept his mouth shut. Overcomplicated words were a guaranteed ticket to getting punched in the face. It's like, yeah, I'm not going to try to explain that.
Fine, let's do this.
Etov suddenly grabbed him around the waist and threw him over her shoulder. A pile driver? The magic armor could handle it. He braced himself, but she didn't throw him. Instead, held onto him like a sack of potatoes. As Roxy and Edis called out his name, the ground was suddenly so far away. Etov, with Rudius on her shoulder, was flying. This was bad, far worse than a pile driver. Some other more incredible move was coming, like a Demon King bomb. If Rudius fell from this height, his skull would crack open like an egg. Rudius squirmed, then got both arms around Etov in an attempt to escape.
Hey, hands off my butt.
Rudius hurriedly let go. It wasn't like that. He wasn't groping her or anything, and he definitely wasn't being unfaithful. He didn't have any control over it. She did have a nice butt, though. Tight. Nothing but the best on a Demon King. He's like, sorry, but it's nice, by the way.
Champion, I have your princess. If you want her back, take her from me at Fort Necross.
But Reese thought this was Fort Necross. They're already there. Etov cackled. Her voice echoed through the back of Rudius' skull as the ground shrank further away. Where was she taking him, and what was going on? In the midst of his confusion, Rudius caught a fleeting glimpse of Edis and Roxy, gawping up at them in stunned amazement. And that is chapter 6. Rudius starting your own fires again. Rudius just starting his own fires again. And again, super interesting that Moore poses this concept of this. Because again, it doesn't seem like this is set in stone. They're going to get into the whole legend and stuff here in a minute. But again, it's like, why did Moore go out of his way to set that up? He could have just had them fight. Why set this up? Is it because this layout, nobody will die? Whereas if they just did a duel, Edis could die? That could be. And I'll give Moore that credit if that's the case. But again, I really do feel like Rudius trusts him a bit too much when, again, Moore has no responsibility to be Rudius' friend and help him out. He's done nothing for him. He's not going to gain anything by this. Chapter 7, Dueling Etov's Ultimate 4. The best wives go into combat. I love it. As Rudius was kidnapped, Edis and Roxy watched in blank shock. They were slow to react, both because it happened so fast and because it was so blah. A real anticlimax. Etov had taken Rudius as if it was a typical next step in the process, while Rudius resigned himself to it. Maybe he knew, somehow, that this was all part of her routine. And you know what? It's sad that they would have that thought process. That Rudius' wives would have that thought process because he just doesn't make things always perfectly clear. He keeps a lot of stuff to himself. So, yeah, I mean, Rudius does that stuff. He just thinks about this stuff much more than we do, and we just aren't fully clued in.
Rudius!
Once Edis processed it, she acted fast. With a mighty yell, she drew her sword and ran after Etov. Etov's personal guard stood in her way, so she attacked them. One parried her attack, which sent him flying on his butt by the force of her blow.
Out of the way!
Stop, listen.
Tell your Demon King that.
Please, listen to me.
I don't have anything to talk to you about. Give Rudius back.
Fine. Okay, here goes. Steps there are you must take if you want to princess back. Mwahaha.
Are you screwing with me?
The guard barely managed to deflect Edis' second blow before retreating a few steps. Edis howled, her gaze roving around the sky. Above them, Etov kept flying in circles. It was like she was antagonizing Edis personally, which only intensified her frustration. But there was nothing she could do to an opponent who could fly. Then Edis saw Etov alight upon the corner of the fort. Her eyes lit up as she dashed forward again.
Edis, stop.
Roxy called out to Edis, grabbing the hem of her shirt.
How come?
Roxy was calm and collected as Edis spun around.
Did you not see? She kidnapped Rudius. We gotta save him.
The guard said there was steps to take if we want to do that.
Why don't we hear what they are first? But Roxy!
Edis, please calm down. Look at me. I'm calm. Edis would have wondered what that mattered, but Roxy's words struck a chord with her. She recognized that, in fact, she wasn't thinking clearly. If you lost your cool in battle, your rage rose to the surface. When that happened, your opponent could read your sword. Once they did, the battle was as good as lost. She knew that from Isolde's training. That explained how the guards parried her so easily. Edis lowered her sword from above her head to a neutral position, then took a deep breath. Her fear over Rudius was making it impossible for her to stay still. She tried to constrain it, but couldn't. Yeah, I can totally see that. And again, that was kind of the whole thing with the Sword Sanctum, is like she went there to be trained by Galfalion. And when she met Galfalion, it sort of implied this idea that she was so like battle hungry and everything like that. It kind of intrigued him. Like the anger that she had was this driving force that he could mold in some way. But as I'll get into in a minute as well, is this idea of eventually realizing you can't go just by the Sword God style alone. She needs other stuff for this. And if she didn't have that stuff, she would not be able to see what she's doing right now. It's really cool that everything that had to do with her training to fight Orsted technically still comes into play with how she deals with other situations. Because yes, if she never did any of this other training, she probably would be like, screw you, it's offense, offense, offense. Don't think, just swing. I'm worried about Rudius. I know, but there's a legend about the immortal demon king Etof Ratof. A legend? Yes. In the legend, our demon king kidnaps a princess as a prank. Edis relaxed. She'd heard that story herself. It was a common tale about Etof, actually about a few different demon kings. This sort of tale where demon kings kidnap the princess. Then the hero overcomes challenges to save her. When Edis was little, she heard stories like that time and time again, dreaming of one day being in a similar tale. At the time, what side of it? Exactly what side of the tale was she wanting to be in? Did she really want to be the princess? Or did she want to be the hero to kill the demon king? When she was very young, I can totally see it being her wanting to be the princess. You know, no matter how tomboyish they are, I think there's a side of them that kind of wants to be the one, the damsel in distress, the Prince Charming, the beautiful boy comes and saves them. But it could be she wanted to beat him up too. I guess it would depend on if it was the point where she started kind of working towards becoming a adventurer. That would be where I would think it'd probably be wanting to be the hero. She realized that this princess thing all started because of what Rias said. Her expression changed to indignation. One thing still didn't make sense to her. There was one question that had never crossed her mind when she was little. What happened to the princess after the kidnapping? The Demon King summons the hero. Okay, then what? Then they fight, I believe. This confused Edis. They were already going to fight. She's like, okay, hold on. What's the process? So what happens? Okay, they send a message to the hero. Okay, then what happens? They fight. Okay, we were already fighting. Like, we were going to fight, and then he took the princess so that we could fight. But why would you need to do all this stuff when we're already fighting? Again, that goes in my mind of like, yeah, I think Moore kind of made this a lot more complicated than it should be. And again, that could be because Moore sees this as a way of them not getting killed if the duel happens, whereas if they just straight dueled, one side is going to kill the other. No. But that's the whole point of how Etof gets the guards is by not killing them. So I don't think she wants to kill them. In the duel, I mean. I don't get it. Shall we ask them about it? After she hesitated, Edis nodded in agreement. She didn't have the firmest grasp on how they ended up here, but she knew from their everyday life that she could trust Roxy. The other woman might be a bit spacey, but she was brimming with know-how and took good care of everyone. She also listened patiently to Edis's worries when they came up and explained anything she didn't understand. Because she's a teacher. Roxy's a teacher. She likes to explain those kind of things. Again, I think this is true to Roxy's persona. In being a teacher, you're somebody who has to kind of be able to listen to people. If you're not a good listener, it's like one of those things of like, it's the oddity about a teacher. What does a teacher do? They teach. They tell people what is the truth. They say, here's the information. Here, absorb it. Let me give you the stuff to absorb. But in actuality, a good teacher is one that listens and observes what they're teaching, because if the person is not absorbing it, there's no point in keeping pouring stuff into that sponge if it's not going to soak it up. They have to be able to observe, they have to be able to think, they have to be able to adjust for who they're teaching. So yes, it makes sense that whenever Edis is having a situation or an issue, she's going to be able to sit there and patiently figure out what's going wrong and be able to explain it the proper way. Once out on a walk in Shariah, they were surrounded by a band of weirdo adventurers. It was a dicey situation. If Edis had been alone with Leo, she could have come out swinging, but Lada chose that day to cling desperately to Leo's back. Edis couldn't let things get violent. At the same time, the adventurers didn't look likely to stand down. How could she fight and keep Lada safe? While Edis stood there trying to figure out the dilemma, Roxy took charge. She swiftly placed herself between Edis and the adventurers, then got them both talking and brought everyone onto the same page. The situation was resolved in mere moments. Roxy was reliable, especially at times like this, when Edis didn't know what was going on. This is kind of one of those moments where I wish this was in the previous chapter, that interlude. Just have a brief scene of them walking around or something like that, just to get this all sussed out, because it feels very awkward in the middle of a situation like this. I almost feel like this is kind of in an awkward spot. It's still a good story, this idea of Edis acknowledging that she has a moment where she can't act when she wants to act, because that's Edis. There's these guys, and they're being weird, they're being aggressive. Just cut them in half. Don't think, just cut. It's easy, it's simple. You want to fight? Let's do it. You want to cause problems? I'm ready. I'm game. Swords on the hip. Let's do this. Or I'll just do a Boris punch in your face. It is weird that she would have a problem with fighting them just because Lada is on Leo's back. Like, she can't get around that. Like, this does kind of make it feel like it's overcomplicating it, because, like, she could get around that. That ain't a problem. But again, it kind of opens the door to Roxy being able to kind of talk the situation into a resolve. Okay, you take this one. Edis returned her sword to its scabbard, then folded her arms. Everyone had their time to shine, and if now was the time for a discussion, it wasn't hers. Again, I've always liked how Edis is always willing to acknowledge her weaknesses, which is very interesting, because I think early on in the series, early Edis would just throw a fit. I can't do this, or I feel like you're looking down upon me, is really what it is. I think early Edis would get really frustrated in situations like this. No, I don't need to rely on Roxy. No, I don't need your help. I can handle this. She's changed a lot. Roxy acknowledged before addressing the guards. I have some questions if it's all right. What are these steps? While her tone was cool and collected, inside, Roxy was terrified. Etof's personal guard was legendary on the Demon Continent. They were a top-level militant group, with the gear and skills to match. Handpicked by Etof, they had the lofty reputation as the toughest gang on the Demon Continent. Should they decide to attack while she was surrounded, Roxy doubted she'd survive. Even Edis, standing beside her, did little to allay those fears. But this was the hand that she'd been dealt. She was facing this with Rudius. He always said that he was counting on her. She was confident that she was not the hero for this crisis, but she wanted to live up to his expectations. But then there was what he said to her before they left for the Demon Continent. He told her that if something happened and he was separated from them, her job was to rein Edis in. Roxy hadn't expected they'd be separated through this bizarre circumstances, but she had to keep it together nonetheless. Otherwise, there'd be no point in her coming along in the first place. He's like, I have this one job. Rudius brought me for this one job. A leash for Edis. Like, this is my role, is to keep Edis from freaking charging around like a crazy person when he's not present. I'm a replacement Rudius when he's not around. Another guard stepped forward, and Roxy, calmer now, noted the guards weren't agitated either. Their shining black plate armor and great swords were intimidating, but she didn't sense any murderous intent in them, unlike Edis. Taking this into account, Roxy decided there was a chance for rational conversation. It was a nice change of pace after their brain-melting chat with Etof.
Heroes, you have done well to reach the heart of Fort Necros. You must be strong indeed to have fought your way through the personal guard of Demon King Etof.
They didn't do that part. We commend you. None could deny your valor.
Yet we are Etof's personal guard. We must defend our honor and our pride. If you wish to try your might against the immortal Demon King Etof and take back the beautiful princess, you must first fight the pinnacle of Etof's personal guard, the Ultimate Four.
4 figures stepped out of the ranks of the guards. They drew their swords, beating the pummel of their blades against their armor, then rose them high. Roxy didn't recall them fighting their way through them at any point, but still. So, if I got this clear, all we have to do is beat you, and then we get Rudius back?
I don't know about that. The princess's wish might work miracles, but I wouldn't get your hopes up if I were you.
Look, I know he called himself a princess, but out of all of us, Rudius is the real champion. Or at least, he's the strongest fighter. Is that not a problem for Lady Etof?
Huh?
The guard let out a small sigh before kneeling before Roxy to whisper to her.
You know how in the tale of the Demon King Kesara and the heroic still-cutting Atmos, the princess stumbles upon an eternal flame and burns through the heart of the iron fur of the Demon King with it, leading the hero to victory?
The sudden change of subject threw Roxy through a loop. The guard sighed again.
Look, I'm not supposed to say this, but the point is, the line about the princess working miracles means that Lady Etof will let the princess join the fight against her. So yes, it's fine for the princess to fight the Demon King too.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry. So stupid.
Hello, heroes. You wish to save your
Princess? Actually, he's the strongest. Look, I'm not supposed to talk about this, but this is the process. It's almost like the game developer who's like, okay, they're never going to figure out this stupid trick, so I got to tell them how to get past this part. Like, it's like the MMO game devs. They're like, okay, they've been trying to get the race the world first for this boss is not working out. They're not figuring out this mechanic. We got to drop some hints at them because it's going to take way too long for somebody to figure it out, and it kind of looks bad for our game. So, look, there's 2 phases. First part is look, just beat these guys and then press that lever over there. That will drop the thing on top of Etoff and it makes her come down here. And then Rudius could join you at that part. It's so dorky.
So yes, it's fine for the princess to fight the Demon King too.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry. I don't know those sorts of stories very well. Well, the problem also is that they're actually playing this story out. It's like, it's not just the story, it's like playing the story out.
Yeah, that's normal, especially these days. For a few hundred years now, we hadn't had any champions at all. Hardly anyone knows the stories.
Goodness, really?
Yeah. This is my first time doing the champion confrontation, actually. This is my first time doing This is my first time on the job. So stupid as rolls. Etoff was notorious. For the past few hundred years, her notoriety held firm, even though she hadn't lifted a finger to warrant it. Laplace's war ended. Then North God Kalman bested her, and she hadn't left the demon continent to incite any war since. She barely fought anyone at all. At most, she had gone around pestering other demons of her rank. As a result, her current personal guard had never dealt with challengers before. There was plenty of random knight errants who dropped by the castle, however, so they knew how to treat visitors. Are we meant to fight them? There's only 2 of us, so 2 on 4? Oh, no. They come out one at a time, so you'll do 2 on 1 4 times.
Very well. Roxy then turned to Edis. We've reached an understanding. Okay, so what's happening? So who do I stab? He says if we beat them, we'll get Rudius back, and then we can fight Etoff. Huh, that's pretty simple. If we lose, though, we won't lose. You're right. Edis is like, I'll win. Edis is like, I'll win. Roxy tightened the grip on her staff, realizing Edis had regained her clear focus. I am Kalina, King Tier North God Knight, and one of Lady Etoff's ultimate 4, Kalina of the Wind. The first knight was a woman. She immediately took off her helmet and chucked it. The other guards scrambled to catch it. Their gear was expensive, so it would be trouble if she lost it. Champions, I have been waiting for you. Her face was reptilian. She had yellow scales and hair like a mass of needles. Her whole face was covered in scars that told of her long history as a warrior. I train in a special training hall here at Fort Necross. I have many students. Lady Etoff's grandchild is one such student. I trained them hard. Have you got any students? You ought to get some. Students will respect you. You may wonder why I'm training in a place like this. It's all so one day I can challenge Lady Etoff. For every hero and champion I defeat, I earn the right to challenge Lady Etoff. Now, champions, let us fight. Lose quickly so I can use you to become stronger still. Edis drew her sword. She didn't care a damn about what Kalina was saying. She was her opponent. Opponents who talked too much pre-fight were North God style and Water God style users. Edis, a practitioner of Sword God style, didn't speak. She'd never been good at speeches anyways. She raised her sword high. Oops, sorry. I'm talking too much, aren't I? Fighting time. Here I go. Edis was smooth and efficient, swinging her sword down. It was a movement she practiced over 100 times a day. Since her time at the Sword Sanctum, she must have done it tens of thousands of times. Slashing down on a diagonal, even as her blade began to move, it was already too fast for the human eye. This was a sword of light. It made no sound. Before anyone knew what was happening, it was over. Her blade came to a halt on Kalina's other side, after which Edis slowly raised her sword back up. Actually, Kalina knew what happened. She had a special ability, a sixth sense that let her see danger coming. Before she was interrupted, she'd seen her death flash before her eyes. The ability of hers was different than Rudius' demon eye of foresight. She'd had it since she was little. Whenever she was faced with imminent death, she sensed it, and she'd known that unless she acted in that moment, she was going to die. She didn't know if her danger sense was accurate, because she never ignored it to find out. Well, that's the key thing there. It's like, how do you know it works? Because if you test to see if it's actually working by not doing it, you're going to die. I tried to see if it was lying once. I never breathed again. All she knew was that her ability kept her alive. This is why she got knocking on the North God's gates. The moment she got that sense here, she dived out of the way. She didn't avoid the strike altogether. She managed to move her upper half about 10 centimeters out of the way, enough to save her life. She felt with perfect clarity the sensation of a blade cutting through her body. She seen both her arm and leg detach, a perfect cross-sectional diagram of a suit of armor. She'd never seen such a clean slice. As her legs severed, she toppled to the ground with a clang. Her arm hit the ground at the same time. That was too fast, someone muttered. Maybe it was Kalina. Maybe it was another guard. It didn't matter. Everyone could tell who won. Edis looked down at Kalina, as she had earlier, now smirking. The arena was silent. Would Edis end it? No one moved to stop her. Etof's personal guard fought to the death. It might be considered crass for Ultimate 4 to beg for mercy. Or maybe everything happened too fast, and no one was keeping up. For a long moment, Edis stood there silently, with her sword raised. But then her expression returned to normal, and she asked dubiously, "Is it over?" That win? What next? Am I supposed to kill you? Very interesting, though. Again, Rudius currently is being held by Etof. This is her personal guard in front of her. Just earlier, she was in a frenzy. Give Rudius back. Give me back my husband. Put him down. And she was going to cut through anything in her way. Thankfully, people were parrying it and being tossed around, trying to parry it, and then Roxy stops her. But right here, again, just a minute ago, Roxy's like, calm down. Let's figure out the situation. Okay, this is what we do to get to Rudius. So she's playing into it. Okay, so what do I do? Beat them. All right, cool. Let's do this. But she's not killing them. She's playing into the process that Roxy placed before her, but is killing a part of it. I think the old Edis would probably just like keep slashing until they stop breathing. Right here, she's like, are we good? Is that it? It's actually, for Edis, it's a lot of self-control. Is it over already? Kalina felt a chill run down her spine. Edis was saying the fight wasn't over yet. She actually believed that her opponent, down an arm and a leg, hadn't given up, that the fight was still going, and Kalina understood that were Edis in her place, it would be. Even if Edis lost a limb, if she were in the same state as Kalina, she wouldn't yield. The students of the North God trained in how to fight even after losing a limb, although few of them were ready to sacrifice so much. Kalina was not one of those few, as much as she'd wished to be. That mindset, that willingness to sacrifice, such qualities only came to the surface when you were pushed to the brink, and even there, refused to yield. She never assumed that any opponent she defeated in the past shared that quality. Seeing Edis was ready to go further, Kalina spoke up. Yes, it's over. You have bested me, champion. I am utterly defeated. Edis slowly lowered her sword, first from high guard to middle, before to her scabbard. Very interesting. They sort of implied that with like the first meeting that Rias had with the North God style. The idea of like they'll do anything. Like anything they can to win, they'll do it. But I don't think they ever got into details on the idea of how willing they are to keep fighting even after losing a limb. They'll figure out some trick to keep fighting, I think is really what's kind of implying there. But it requires them to sort of having been at the brink, and Kalina's saying that I've never really had that. And I'm wondering if that's tying itself to the before statement of what is Kalina's ability to avoid something that would obviously kill her. So she's never possibly been to that brink because she's always had this ability to sort of see when she's going to receive something that will kill her. Now, granted, losing a limb doesn't mean death, but in this world, I would probably think so unless you have a healer nearby. Because yes, using a limb typically means what? An artery is exposed. And an artery is shooting out blood like crazy. That's why you have to get something on it, tie it down quickly, because you're going to, your blood, your heart's literally saying, goosh, goosh, goosh. Every time it beats, it's shooting out massive amount of blood. So maybe it's more of the idea that she just never has dealt with that, been pushed to that limit, that she's never experienced that to learn how to fight even at your worst. And even explains the idea that she's never really kind of faced somebody like that. But it's interesting to point that out. She sees Edis and goes, I get why she's asking this. Because if she was in my position, if Edis was on the floor there, losing a leg and an arm, and Kalina was looking down upon her, Edis would still be fighting. If she lost both arms, bite down on the handle of the sword and start swinging your head around, like never ending. So yeah, she's questioning, would you keep going? But yes, I'm also kind of wondering if this is kind of tying this into her experience with hanging around Aber. Because it brings up Aber here in a minute. Edis didn't take her hand off the hilt. She surveyed her surroundings, never relaxing as the guards scooped up Kalina and took her from the arena. Only when she was satisfied there were enough distance between her and the remaining three did she take her hand off her sword. They're not much, these Ultimate Four. She wasn't deliberately insulting Kalina. She wasn't even dismissing the other woman as weak. She only thought that, if that was the best Kalina could do, she was nowhere near as good as Aber of the North God style. Even Nina and Isolde, both whom trained with Edis, could have dodged that blow. This is one of those moments where I kind of wonder, is it that Kalina is too reliant on her ability that she lacks that defense? The idea that, okay, well, I never learned how to dodge things like that because I always see it coming, but Edis was too damn fast. Plus, Edis wasn't going along with her speech. So kind of caught her off guard. But both of those things technically together kind of adds up to, is it merely the fact that they don't have enough experience with other people outside of the fort? People that are that vicious, that'll attack that quickly. You'd think that they are. Like, some really strong people come here.
Brave words, little girl. But Kalina was the stupidest of Lady Atoff's ultimate four. I won't have you judge us all by her performance. Yeah, we're not all morons like that. We're clever. Hehehe, that's right. We'll cut you to pieces with our sharpness.
Reese might have commented on this cliche bumbling bad guy squad shtick if he was here. Instead, Edis considered this and decided to prepare herself accordingly. Edis wasn't vain. She knew the limits of her strength, so she called out, "Roxy, yes? Stay behind me. I swear I won't let you get hurt." Roxy felt a small shiver run through her. She knew Edis well. She knew that Edis was a hard worker and the most natural talent in the household at violence. She also knew that, while not on the same level as Rudius, Edis thought herself as the family protector. When it came to stabbing things anyways, to Edis, family was something she protected with her sword. Roxy counted as family. There was a single exception to her rule, Rudius. She relied on him alone in these situations. He was the only one who could keep up with her in a fight. At that thought, Roxy felt ever slightly ashamed. That bit. Yes, I like the part before this. Yes, it's kind of acknowledging Edis is the one that protects. She's going to protect you. Your family, stay behind me. I'll protect you. She's the best in the household at protecting people. I mean, yes, not the same level as Rudius, but Edis herself, she is the protector of the house. That was the position that she put herself in. Again, when she first arrived, she was trying to find some place. Sylphie's over here. She's taking care of the family. She's doing a good job there. Over here, Roxy's going to work. You know, she's doing the training. You know, she's basically making money because at the time, Rudius didn't have all that money coming in from Orsted. But she's basically, you know, feeding the family, putting food on the table. But right here, what hits me so hard is that later part. To Edis, family was something she protected with her sword. Roxy counted as family. An aw moment. Like, oh, it's sweet. She sees Roxy as family. We'd probably assume that at this point. She protects Roxy as family. She protects Zenith as family. Protects Lily as family. Aisha as family. Norn, family. Rudius. Different. That's the different part. There's one exception, Rudius. The assumption Rudius is family and that she'd do anything to protect him. But it's not really saying that she wouldn't protect him. It's just saying that she is standing on equal. That was the whole point of her going off and training herself, was that she could stand equal with Rudius. We're unbalanced. I need to train so that we're balanced now. I want to stand beside you and fight Orsted with you. It's not an idea that she wants to beat Rudius. She wants to stand equal with him. But the gut punch that comes from this, besides the idea of acknowledging that she sees Roxy as family, is that Roxy's realizing that she does not see me as reliable. She sees me as somebody to protect, which is great. I'm her family, tear, heartwarming, but I'm not good enough to stand with her. Roxy's become Edis, back here after Orsted's first encounter. Roxy's becoming the one that I am unbalanced. I cannot fight at Edis' side. I am holding her back. At that thought, Roxy felt ever so slightly ashamed. I'm a burden upon Edis right now. She can't rely on me. So she's going to protect me, not rely on me. And I don't blame Edis for thinking this. I would probably do the same thing as Edis. Roxy is very skilled. Again, she used to solo labyrinths. She survived in an S-rank labyrinth by herself for months. She survived alone, stuck in a dungeon. But in front of Sword Kings, in front of Etoff's Ultimate 4, that's the question mark. Because it goes in that whole realm of swordsmen versus magicians and how that all kind of gets muddied by the distance you are from the person and how quickly a blade can swipe. Edis is focusing on, Roxy's behind me, I have to protect her. Yes, I want to get to Rudius, but I have to protect Roxy. And they just told me, yes, it's this big speech they're giving. You can't best us. We're much stronger than her. It's a speech. It's all a play. But Edis is taking it seriously. I have to protect her.
I'm Benny, Saint Tier North God Swordsman, and one of Lady Artoff's Ultimate 4. Benny of the Water.
The second looked the definition of average. He seemed to be a particularly hairy race, as his white hair stuck out from the gaps of his helmet. A North Saint? You're lower tier than the last one?
This is true. I can't match Kalina with a blade, but skill and blade isn't the only thing that decides a fight.
True. Edis brought her sword up high, identical to before. There wasn't even a millimeter difference in her stance. She smirked. There wasn't a hint of murder in her eyes now.
Shall we begin? Come at me from whatever angle you prefer.
The screech of metal on metal rang out as he spoke his final syllable. Edis had already struck. Her blade followed the same exact trajectory as before. She was so fast, no one even had time to blink. Just like with Kalina, Benny's left arm and leg hung down, but his body didn't sway. His left arm and leg didn't even fall off. Edis was sure that she cut through them. Alarmed, she stepped back as a man's sword whooshed through where she was standing. Without warning, Benny's sword was in his hand, a black sword like the rest of the guard had.
You dodged, huh? But don't think you.
Edis acted before he ended his sentence. She stepped in to cancel out her previous step, then swung upward at Benny's right arm. A cool metallic cling resounded as Edis instantly brought her sword back to high guard. She let out a breath, suspicious now. She cut him. She felt it for sure. Still, his hand remained attached.
You should let me finish.
He stabbed his sword into the floor, then grabbed his own wrist with his left hand. His right hand, or rather the guard, popped off without resistance. And not merely in a single piece. The hand within had been split perfectly in two, to produce a cross-section as clean as Kalina's body earlier.
I've got Sticky Clan and Heat Clan blood. Swords have never worked on me.
Sticky tendrils of hair-like feelers twisted into the shape of a hand, which then gripped his sword. He held it up ready to strike, staring Edis dead in the eye. She responded with another swing, up, down, left, right, neck, shoulder, arm, leg. She rained in blows from every angle at every part of his body. Eventually, Benny swung up his sword again. None of her strikes had any effect, so there's no need for him to defend himself. She dodged everything he threw at her. As she ducked out of the way of his sword, missing her by millimeters, she drew gasps of admiration from the watching guards. As a general rule, Sword God swordsmen were bad at dodging and defense. Sword God's style encourages wielders to cut their opponents up in a single blow. Dodging was unnecessary in such a philosophy. Edis was different. Before I get to the next part, I'm kind of getting ahead of here. I'm curious what this kind of means here. He explains that he is of the Sticky Clan and the Hia Clan. I don't think we've ever talked about the Sticky Clan and the Hia Clan. My assumption is that the Sticky Clan is a clan of people that produce these tendrils or something like that. Maybe the Hia Clan is the idea of it kind of molding or whatever, the hair itself. Don't know. But the assumption, the way that it explains it here to me is the idea that their body itself is made up of hair-like feelers. Like it's just all these little tendrils of hair and strands that look like that make a form. So even if she cuts it, it's just like, okay, it just kind of moves itself and regrows or whatever, just kind of spurts out. Like they're cutting up the roots of a tree and it just kind of grows itself back. That's the assumption is what they're doing there. So whenever she attacks and cuts a part off, it's just kind of either reattaching itself to stick to itself or it's just regrowing itself. That's what I was kind of getting there. So it's kind of like she's just slicing up a slime. Like you can just cut up the slime, but it just kind of just goops itself back together. It's just like a mass. Which, yes, technically makes sense to what he was saying before. Is like, yes, he's less a rank, but he can keep going, and like she can't. But yes, Edis was different. Galfalion's training for defeating Orsted had been based on rationality. He assumed Orsted wouldn't be brought down with a single blow. Yep. Well, that was also bringing up the idea that he knows all abilities, and so he's going to have Water God style, and he's just going to deflect whatever she brings at him. That was what he made a mistake of. So, judging that evasion was a technique his student would need, he got a North God style swordsman to teach them, and made them spar with a Water God style warrior. His training made a strong impression on Edis. Thanks to Auber's lessons and her standoffs with Isolde, no sword could touch Edis. While her sword cut through Benny's body, he cut only hair. It was like a bout between an adult and a child. As the battle wore on though, panic began to take root in her heart. She inhaled sharply at the sound of dented metal. Her strike hadn't cut through Benny's armor. All she managed to do was scratch him. Her sword of light had gone astray. With a cry of frustration, she parried Benny's strike near the hilt of her blade. The force pushed her 3 steps backward. She wasn't tired, merely at a loss for what to do. No matter what she cut, nothing landed. She forced herself to calm down and think. What would Ghislaine do? Or Galfalion? She wasn't a fast thinker, though, and Benny attacked before she could remember.
Whoa, you're getting tired, champion. It's over now.
It is kind of nice that they're at least acknowledging the idea of, like, it's not that Edis is tired. It's not like she's losing. It's not like she's gonna lose here. It's just merely she can't figure out what to do, and so she's kind of just taking hits over and over again, kind of striking and trying to figure out what to do, and he's not allowing it. It implies that, like, his attacks aren't getting her. Like, he's just too slow. She can easily parry his attacks. It's just she can't figure out what the hell to do. I would imagine it would probably turn to a situation where she's like, okay, I can't seem to hurt this guy, but at the same time, he's not going to kill me. I guess we're going to call it a draw. Like, it would probably ultimately, in the end, probably turn to a draw if she kept fighting. But, but, oh, spirits of ice, lend us your strength. Icicle filled. A sheet of spray along with a freezing wind crashed straight into the charging Benny. His whole body cracked. He was frozen solid in seconds. Edis, now. Acting without delay, Edis stepped in, slid past his frozen form, her sword raking him from inside. He cried out as he was cut in half. His upper half slid from his lower and fell to the ground with a thud. There was a tinkling like breaking glass as his armor shattered, leaving behind 2 clumps of pure white hair. Both were covered in ice and twitching slightly. Oh, damn it. Not my personal guard armor. Not my armor. I just been cutting out. Not my armor. Damn it. So stupid. Again, these dudes can just come back to life. Like, they just don't die. So it's like, yeah, as long as my armor isn't broken, I don't care what you did to me. With that, he stopped moving. The other guards promptly ran over and carried him away. Edis watched them blankly, then turned to Roxy. I heard that Sticky Clan was vulnerable to ice. It was really effective, huh? Roxy, seeing Edis in trouble, had used magic without knowing whether it'd be any good. That it had been more effective than she had imagined had come as a shock. Realizing that Edis was staring at her, she returned to her usual pose before clearing her throat. Ahem, I'm sorry. Should I have stayed out of it? Of course not. You saved me. Edis was surprised herself. If she were honest, she'd been out of ideas. She'd never fought an opponent like Benny before, where she could cut armor, but not their body. Well, maybe once or twice, but she hadn't been prepared for it this time. Had the fight gone on like that, he might have overcome her. Yeah, I'm assuming what she's talking about with like cutting through the body, but not harming them or whatever. I'm assuming she's talking about the was it the magic? Were they called magic armors? They were the armors in the Petrified Forest. I think it was the Petrified Forest when they were going to with Blaze and all them. Well, they all got the same quest basically when they were on the Demon Continent. Kind of implied they were just literally just a moving armor, like it was a ghost possessing the armor itself and moving it around. So that would make sense that would be like her experience with that. But yeah, like this response. It's like that one of those moments where you kind of wonder if Edis is going to be like, this just made me look bad or something like that, or don't get in my way. But no, Edis is like, no, that was great. Thank you. You did good. That was good. That was good. Thank you. I didn't know what to do. You helped me out there. And now suddenly they kind of see each other as equals. So it's super cute. You back me up, okay? Okay. Roxy on support. Roxy answered her request, sounding a little happier this time. Again, earlier, Edis is literally saying, your family, I have to protect you, which is a good thing, but not seeing her as being able to stand at her side. Roxy just basically froze the dude. That's a great support. Yeah, help me out here. These last 2 are going to be cake. Are going to be so easy. I don't know. I haven't seen the last 2 yet. The remaining 2 of the Ultimate 4 laughed derisively. Hey. Benny was weak. He was totally reliant on his inherent abilities. He was truly one of a kind among swordsmen, clad in renowned black armor, of Lady Atoff's personal guard. One can see how he might grow too confident for his powers. Indeed, I envy his talents. But to think that he failed to pay heed to a magician, even as his armor was cut into shreds. He was the greatest fool amongst the Ultimate 4. 2 of the Ultimate 4s remain. 1 step forwards. Tremble, worms, for I am your next opponent. Thus, their bout with a 3rd champion began. But now this time, Roxy and Ez together. So cool. I'm actually very curious to see how Refugion's going to handle them working as a pair, because that is a really kind of a big question mark there, is how a magician can support a physical fighter. It is really kind of just knowing each other and being able to call out whenever attacks are coming. Again, that's why Rudius for the longest time was still calling out his spells, because he wanted, Reserved and Edis to know ahead of him that a spell was coming. Yes, right here, technically Roxy can't do silent casting, so she has to call her spells, but she still needs to let Edis know when she's actually going to do the attack. So it'll be cool to see how the 2 of them fight together. But yeah. Chapter 8. Imprisoned in Fort Necros. Now we're going to actually get into some lore stuff here. Very quick chapter, but we get into some lore stuff here.
Look, here we are.
After flapping around in circles, Etoff alighted herself on a building located not too far from the arena, before throwing Rudius into a room within it. Where exactly? The room was made for a little girl. Everything was baby pink. There was a canopied bed, white furniture, laced curtains, and a fancy teapot. It looked like a room in an Austrian palace, but even Ariel's room wasn't this girly. The only thing that didn't fit the aesthetic was the view out the window. Reddish-brown earth, mountain with spooky trees, black drakes flying around.
The princess's room.
Princess? You mean this room belongs to your daughter, Lady Etoff?
No, I don't have a daughter.
Yeah, Orsa told him that much. Etoff only had one child, a son, North God Kalman II. The epic of the North God, currently in circulation, was mostly about him. He'd slain a giant king dragon and defeated behemoths on the Begaric continent. He sounded like a genuine hero, but Orsa called him an idiot boy. As they say, like mother, like son.
Yeah, he ain't no hero. He's a stupid boy.
Then this room,
It's your room.
this really isn't my style.
Don't hold hope that your champion will come to save you. You'll be in here until you die.
She wasn't even listening. With another cackle, she left the room. Ruiz began to plan an escape. Was he even imprisoned? The door wasn't even locked. Was this her way of proposing to him? He really didn't get it.
Excuse me.
Moore was behind him. Ruiz turned to find someone actually sensible, which was a relief. Again, why do you trust Moore so much?
You appear to be confused.
Yes.
Please, take a seat. I'll explain.
Ruiz sat obediently on a ridiculously girly chair. It was pretty comfy. Although too small, Moore took a teapot and poured a cup of tea. The liquid came out was cloudier than black tea and more subdued color. Ruiz realized it was Soka's tea. Nanahoshi lusted after that stuff, although she probably didn't drink it for the taste. She lusted after it because it was the only thing keeping her from dying again. It's like, I don't want to end up like I was before. I'll drink this stuff religiously. Oh, thank you. Don't mind if I do.
Good. Now, where would you like me to begin?
At the beginning. Then in order from there if possible.
From the beginning, Lady Atoff was born in the end of the...
I was half expecting Rudius to interrupt at some point. No. I don't mean from the very beginning. I mean from the beginning of this situation. No, he's literally like, he just lets him talk about like Lady Atoff's entire life. So I guess that Rudius was like, yeah, that's exactly what I want to know. Yeah, sure. I mean, I ain't complaining. This is lore stuff. I'm going to eat this stuff up.
From the beginning, Lady Atoff was born at the end of the first Human-Demon War.
Wow, so even Lady Atoff had parents, huh?
Indeed. Her honored mother is said to have been a great intellect, like Lord Bodigadi.
Reese was puzzled by that. Great intellect like Bodigadi? So they were going by mortal Demon King standards here. Again, I don't get why he thinks Bodigadi is so dumb. I mean, that's like Kishirika. It's like, yes, she's dorky, but she's not dumb. There's a difference between personality and actual knowledge. Just because you act silly does not mean you're not smart. Which this is another one of those moments where it kind of continues to sort of strike at that theory that I have of Bodigadi being the technique god. And this idea of having all that knowledge. Because Rudius right here is still making fun of him. At this point, he's still making fun of him.
Lord Body grew up watching their wise mother, while Lady Atoff grew up watching their father, the immortal Lord Necros Lacrosse.
I missed it. Did they mention the mother's name? Lady Atoff was born after the Hiroshima. Okay, so he has parents. Yeah, it's great intellect, like Lord Body. Grew up watching the mother, while Lady Atoff watched the father. But it doesn't mention the mother's name. Maybe it's mentioned later. Because I really didn't read into a lot of this stuff, so this is going to be a lot of stuff that I'm going to be kind of digging into first time here.
Back in those days, immortal Lord Necros Lacrosse held dominion as the most powerful of all the Demon Kings.
The immortal Necros Lacrosse was one of the 5 great Demon Kings from the first Human-Demon War. There wasn't much information left about them, but compared to the other Demon Kings, he was supposed to have been incredibly powerful.
Lord Necros Lacrosse was slain by the hero Aras. I was not yet born, and I do not know how one ends the life of an immortal king, nor does Lady Atoff, who was but a child. Lady Atoff says that what she does remember is that when she saw her father die, she knew beyond a doubt that she had to get stronger and become a mighty Demon King.
So she wanted to be like her dead father? Despite looking like she'd never thought about anything, Etoff was striving towards something. Reese had met many Demon Kings, but it was true that of all of them, Etoff was the most archetypical. Best way Reese could put it was that she was like a physical incarnation of violence and fear. She just was a Demon King. I guess that makes sense because with Bodigadi, he was very easygoing. Like, it doesn't seem like he was going towards a purpose. Like, he wasn't seeking to do something. Yes, when he found out about Rudius, he wanted to go meet Rudius. But then again, disappears. What's he doing? It didn't seem like he was saying, I strive to do this. I want to do this. Yes, he goes around, he helps people. He was going to that one clan, he was teaching them. Eventually, when he's hanging out with Rudius, when he was with Rudius, every morning when he was training, he was constantly there guiding Rudius, teaching Rudius, telling him information and whatnot. So it does seem like he's kind of bestowing things upon people as he's traveling around, but it doesn't seem like he has a end goal. Right here, he's saying Etoff has a purpose. She has something that she's constantly striving for. I didn't realize it because she's so seeming like she just wants to fight. It's not like she's talking about her woes. It's not like when the first time he met her, when that whole situation that was happening with Nonohoshi, it's not like she's going to be like, hey, Rudius, by the way, let me tell you my entire life story. But I guess what he's saying here is because she has this purpose of being somebody like her father, she looks like the physical incarnation of violence and fears. She is what he would classify, what would be in the definition of a mind of somebody Sekai in another world, That's the Demon King in the games. Somebody that just wants to destroy things and is extremely violent.
However, we mortal demons do not pay heed to the past. His Majesty Lacrosse was a mighty king, but no one knew in what way he was mighty.
So he wanted to be like her dad, but she only had a vague idea of what he was actually like. Typical Etoff. This time, it was like daughter, like father. Maybe all immortal demons were like this deep down. Her father hadn't left any records behind to demonstrate how he might have been either. A human would have left overblown accounts of their own greatness, but immortal demons lived so long they didn't even look back to the past. Possibly at the time, they didn't have a concept of keeping records. That makes sense. If you're it kind of gets into multiple facets with the immortal demons. Is the idea of like, yes, there's one half of it where they don't have the same kind of concept of time as we do. That's what they kept saying about Bodigadi. He just doesn't have the same concept of time as we do. He might not show up. He just does whatever he wants to do. He doesn't have that. The sense of time is messed up there. It's like the whole Fririn thing, a mere 100 years or whatever. But there's the other side of it, is that you're not going to write down things to pass on your legacy. You're not going to write a diary. You're not going to write a history book about yourself. Why would you? You could just tell the person you're an immortal demon. You're going to be around forever. If somebody needs to know about you, you're going to tell them about you. You're not going to write it. Whereas humans with a limited lifespan, yes, we want to maybe write a book that we can tell somebody our story. You write a biography or whatever to tell somebody your story because you're not going to be around to tell it to them. If I wanted to tell my great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren something, I would have to write a book. Unless we could figure out something here soon where you can be immortal or plant yourself in a robot, you're going to have to leave something for them to read later. It's a different mindset here. There was no need to learn from the past. That was obvious to them. If you thought like that, you didn't leave any sources behind. Again, because your thought process is never an end. It's always forward. What's next? Who cares about the past?
I have a question for you, Master Brutus.
Yes?
What kind of being is a Demon King? How are they spoken amongst humans?
In this world, Demon Kings were no more than the rulers of parts of the demon's territory. But Bruce only thought that because he knew a fair bit about the demon continent. What about an ordinary human? What did people in Osra or Renoa say about them? They say that they're overwhelmingly powerful and humanity's natural enemy. And also that sometimes they kidnap princesses. Oh,
That's right. After His Majesty Necros passed away, Lady Etoff, who knew not what it meant to be a mighty Demon King, sought to learn from humans, and so gathered sources from them.
exactly like I was saying earlier. If you're always living and you never have an expectation that you're going to end, why would you write things down? So she's having to figure this out, but he never wrote anything down. Nobody wrote anything about him. Oh, but the humans, they write stuff down all the time. They might have records there. They keep talking about these stories that they read. I faced a human and they said, oh, you're those demon kings from those stories. Wait, you have stories about my father? Let me read them. It's so bizarre, but actually very creative. This is one of those really stupid circumstances. Like this whole bit's so dumb and it's so comical and it's so silly, but there's still like rooted logic behind it. Refugians making rooted logic in a stupid circumstances with a stupid villain that has a very single-minded, but it makes perfect sense. She wants to be like her father. No records. Humans say they have records. They have these stories. Let me go see those books. It'll tell me how to be like dad. It's so goofy, but so cool. When you say it like that, it sounds like Etoff was reading them herself.
It was, of course, her personal guard at the time that did the reading. Various demon kings were mentioned in those texts. Those known as mighty all bore some points in common.
Points in common? You mean?
Yes, the qualities you just listed.
Overwhelmingly powerful, human's natural enemy, kidnapping princesses. Plus, heroes that rescued the princesses. Didn't you think that sounded off?
I hadn't been born back then, and our underlings at the time likely knew little about humans. There was also documents amongst the demon records that contained their similar stories, though of course, the immortal demons themselves left no record. The stories of how the demon kings kidnapped a princess and was defeated by the hero Aras.
It finally clicked for Rudius. During the first Great Demon War, the hero Aras had taken 6 companions and slain all 5 great demon kings. He was a hero who beat Kishirika and brought a war that lasted 1,000 years to a close. There had been stories like the one Moore described in one of the tales about him. The gist of it was that he defeated the Demon King, rescued the princess, and married her, and founded the Osra Kingdom. However, according to the stories that Rudius read in the Boreas house, Aras
hadn't actually set out to save the princess, and the Demon King hadn't actually kidnapped her. And Human Nation had, in an act of strategic diplomacy, offered the princess to the Demon King as a hostage. Aris, for totally unrelated reasons, had invaded the castle and struck down the Demon King. As a result, the princess ended up getting rescued. That was what really happened. Oops. And then people change it, of course, and then people, of course, change it so it sounds heroic. At least this is a fire that Rudis didn't start for once. Authors of later years hadn't told it in that way, though. Many of them added dramatic flair to the tale of the hero Aras and his battle to rescue the princess. Some of them must have known more of the story than others. Either that or they just been writing pure fiction, totally divorced from history. Gotta sell the books, obviously. Depending on the book, it was a different Demon King who kidnapped the princess. That helps. That helps. They all do the same thing. It's the same stupid story. And the princess's name and her homeland varied too. If you believed all the stories, all 5 of the great Demon Kings kidnapped a princess. Then the hero Aras defeated all of them, got a happy ending with all the princesses, and the newly found Asura ended up a whole harem of queen consorts. Hey, thank you for saving me. There's another princess in another castle, is really how it goes. And Etoff believed all of them. She thought that what was written in those books were the truth of what heroes, princesses, and demon kings were like. There's almost a sad reality of all this. Like, I almost feel bad for Etoff. Because again, they're immortal demons. And she lost her father, who she looked up to. And she didn't know what it was meant to be like him. And she thought that she had to. I have to fill in this gap. I need to fit in here. How do I do that? I don't know. I don't know what he's like. I don't know how to be like him. So I have to seek knowledge. And so this is basically what told me to be like. It's almost a sad. It's almost like she's living a lie, and it's based off of information that she assumes is true. And I think there's a side of her that's very simple-minded to the idea that she can't hear reasoning otherwise. Now I understand. So that's why Lady Etoff has such a violent disposition. No, she's always been like that. No, that's not what she got from that. She just got the whole princess thing. She's always been violent. Oh, all right then. She's that sort of person. She interpreted the Demon King characters in the way that was most convenient for her. Yeah, it's almost like a side of it that she's like, oh, this makes perfect sense because I want to be violent too, and they were violent in there, so I gotta be evil. It felt like she hadn't so much chosen a preferred interpretation as simply ignored the parts she didn't like. The result, Immortal Demon King Etoff, fear incarnate. Honestly, to Rudius, it worked. There were a lot of humans who genuinely feared Etoff. Okay, how is this related to why I was brought here? You said you were a princess. My just desserts then. Even in jest, you shouldn't have said that. Rudius wasn't sure how he was supposed to know Etoff thought that way. So what are Edison and Roxy doing right now? The champions must undergo the trial to demonstrate their might to the Demon King. Which means, essentially, if you want to fight Lady Etoff, you have to defeat her personal guard first. Miss Edis and Miss Roxy are battling with the guard's most spectacular idiot, that is, with our specially selected elite warriors. That doesn't sound good. I gotta catch himself. They're idiots. They're all idiots. It wasn't just the first one, not just the second one, they're all idiots. Reese wouldn't have minded it if it were for fun. Edis was spoiling for a fight anyways, so that worked out perfectly. But if it were a fight to the death, that was different. Right, I'm very sorry, but I have to get going. I've got to help out Edis. Wait, please. You'll have to fight me if you want to stop me. And hey, it's not that unusual for a princess to fight too these days. Girl power. Reese figured fighting his way through more was going to hurt a bit. When he faced Etoff last time, it turned into a magical shootout. That was bad for Rudius. He had thought about how he would deal with that the next time, but the gap in their experience was too vast. No matter what Rudius did, the odds wouldn't shift massively in his favor. This time, though, he had magic armor. Victory wouldn't be determined by whoever's best at magic attacks. Don't get worked up. Lady Etoff might be dead serious about all this, but we, her servants, don't enjoy murdering people. Not in this day and age. Even if your friends are defeated, they'll only lose an arm or something at most. You mean it? Be that as it may, their opponents are all members of Lady Etoff's personal guard. Warriors who come to this land to dedicate themselves to training for as long as it takes. I would caution against expecting an easy victory. They're doing damn good so far. Reese didn't like the sound of that, but he still thought Edis could handle him.
Moments like this were why she worked so hard. Well, maybe the specific situation was a bit different. The point was that she was ready to wield her skills when it was demanded of her. Roxy was with her too. If Edis was the brawn, Roxy was the brains. Rudius was confident that together they would win. At least, he hoped they would. This was still Fort Necros, though. As Tales told it, it was basically the Sword Sanctum. North God Edition. Everyone here had traversed the demon continent to reach it. These weren't people who did things halfway. Beyond Rudius' concerns about winning and losing, he also realized that he wanted to see Edis in action. There's like a side of it like, Edis has got it. And yeah, she got Roxy with her, so they got the brains and the bronze. But yeah, there is still that kind of fear of something bad happening. It is nice that he's kind of assuring, like, you know, chill though. It's not like they're gonna kill your friends there, like your wives. They're not gonna kill them. They don't like the idea of killing. It is interesting that he points out these days, like things have changed. It probably is kind of a reference to maybe the old days where we had war and stuff like that. We were just killing people left and right. These days, probably most of the people that come there want to get stronger. They get there, they get kind of trapped in this whole situation and get like drafted in basically. But they're not like going out in wars constantly and getting desensitized to death. They kind of still have a sense of like, I guess, not wanting to kill anybody that walks up. And again, also feeling bad for those that get kind of trapped in this whole situation and are getting drafted into Etof's army. They feel bad for them. But it's funny that amidst all that, Reese is like, I'm still kind of concerned. I still don't want them to die. And yeah, there's still a fear that even if they don't intend to kill Edis and Roxy, they could still kill them. And yes, these people are very strong. These people in this place, this is literally, like he says, the North God edition of the Sword Sanctum, which is currently being run by the Sword God style. But in the end, besides the concerns of winning, losing, I just want to see Edis in action. I don't get to see her in action very often. I want to see how good she is right now. He just wants to fangirl. He just wants to sit in the audience and cheer on Edis and see how crazy she is. It's cool. Edis served as his sparring partner to train in close combat fighting, and he still couldn't beat her, even in magic armor. I wonder what version. I can see version 2, but version 1 as well? I mean, that's curious. He wanted to see how well she did in a place like this. Okay, can I go and, like, cheer them on?
You may. The princess's word of support are supposed to give heart to the heroes after all.
You don't have to make fun of me. Stop teasing me. Riz hurried back to Edis. Stay strong, oh brave champions. Your princess is coming. And that is chapter 8. Oh my gosh, what a goofy little bit here. But it's cool again to see a little bit insight into Etof, get her story. It's not like a super complicated story, so it's not like we're kind of digging deep into her lore and stuff like that, but at least kind of gives us a perspective of why Etof is the way that she is. And even though it kind of acknowledges the idea that she probably just wants to be this, so it kind of works out in the end for her, but it's still a good little kind of insight into her. But yeah, good little set of chapters here. I'm still kind of very curious as to what Moore is doing here, why he's kind of goading it to be specifically done like this, unless he feels possibly Rudius can break this sort of, I guess, mindset that Etof has. Like maybe possibly he thinks that Rudius could possibly overcome this whole situation and fulfill the whole hero rescuing the princess. And maybe he wants Rudius to do this so that Etof stops focusing on that. Like she wants to do this really badly and play out this role, and maybe by Rudius fulfilling the role and destroying this whole situation, she might realize that, okay, what next? Maybe it'll help her move on or something like that. That's a possibility as well. But I'm always questioning Moore. I don't trust him. But yeah, excited to see what happens here. I'm assuming what's going to happen is Roxy and Edis are going to probably mop the floor with the next two. I don't see them having too much of a difficulty now that they're actually working side by side now. And again, even Moore himself downplays them. They're a bunch of idiots. They're not going to have too much problem. It's going to come down to, of course, the battle with Etof. And it seems like, based on what they're saying here, the moment they defeat the last two, Reese will then be able to join the two of them, and they're going to face off against Etof. Now, again, that kind of pushes against my theory that I had before, that I think that Edis is going to fight Etof solo. I don't know. It might actually have to turn into Rudius and Roxy having to support Edis in some way. If she's going to continuously fly, maybe using Earth and to kind of push her up there. Maybe Rudius have to pick her up and chuck her with the power of the magic armor. It still hasn't mentioned which version of his armor he's wearing. It didn't mention anything about him clunking around, so I'm assuming he doesn't have like the big suit. He's probably using the smaller suit. So we'll see how that plays out. But I'm excited to see how this all plays out. I'm enjoying it so far. Etoff is a dork. I still enjoy her interplay with the characters, but I was actually more surprised in this segment to get a little more insight into Roxy and Edis's relationship right here, because it really is playing this idea of, again, Roxy protecting, but then also kind of seemingly now accepting at Roxy's help. I don't think she sees Roxy as an equal, but she's at least willing to accept Roxy's help, which is a big thing. So anyways, that's it for this Mushoku Monday. I hope you guys enjoyed this Mushoku Monday. As always, if you did, make sure to hit the like button before you leave, Babaka. Too many people not hitting the like button before they leave. It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps the channel. It's that easy. But as per usual, greatly appreciate your guys' support, your kind words, all you guys do for me. It means a great deal to me. But yes, also greatly appreciate everybody that support the channel monetarily through Patreon, tips, links, super thanks, memberships, all that stuff. It means a great deal to me. Thank you. But until the next Mushoku Monday, until we get back into the continuation of the fight against Etoff, y'all take care. Happy Mushoku Mondays, everybody. Welcome back to yet another Trek the Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation. Happy Mushoku Mondays, everybody. Welcome back to yet another Trek the Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation. Now, happy Mushoku Mondays, everybody. Welcome back to yet another Trek the Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation. Happy Mushoku Mondays, everybody. Welcome back to yet another Trek the Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation. And lust for yet, and lust yet for more, and lust yet greater might, and lust for yet. If I wanna tell my great challenge, if I wanted to tell my great challenge, if I want to tell my great challenge, Reus might have commented on the cliche bomb. Reus may have commented on this cliche bumbling. Reus may have commented on this cliche bumbling bad guy squad stick. Reus might have commented on this cliche bumbling bad guy squad stick. I'm sorry, Yuki. It's okay.